Hey guys, Nightfox here. Welcome to my weekly power rankings. This will be the third week, and there's been a little bit of movement in the top and in the bottom. Although I would think the middle's stayed the same for the most part. But yeah, let's get into it. So the bottom four shows are going to be Brave Witches in the 17th spot, Long Riders in the 16th spot, Trickster in the number 15th spot, and Blood of Wars in the 14th spot. Obviously, the big mover this week was Trickster. It's getting a little bit more into, I think, the main plot of the show, so that's good to see and promising. I will say Long Riders and Brave Witches both did not have an episode this week due to delayed production. So that's kind of what gave Trickster that little extra jump to get up to this spot. So I'm not sure if we'll stay here just because of the production delays in the other shows, but we'll see. We'll see if it keeps going up and on the up and up. So let's move on to the middle pack. All right, so in the 13th spot we have Magic of Stella. In the 12th spot we have Izetta the Last Witch. In the 11th spot we have Yuri on Ice, and in the 10th spot we have Occultic 9. So Magic of Stella is pretty much the same as it was last week. It's just kind of that fun show. Izetta, I'm getting more excited about. I feel like I had a real strong episode this week. I feel like we're really getting deeper into the plot, and I feel like it's really going to ramp up and we're going to get some good action sequences in the next couple episodes. So I'm excited about that. Yuri on Ice, I felt was a little bit slow this week. It was fine. There was some nice ice skating sequences, but I just feel like from the way the show has been going, this episode was just a little slow, so it didn't really blow me away that much. Occultic 9, I'm really starting to enjoy this show. The first episode was a little bit scatterbrained, I feel, in its delivery of the plot and the setting, but I feel like after that episode, in episode 2, 3, and 4, we've had a much more clean and concise storytelling. But I will say that the way this show is I guess produced almost in a sense, or directed, they make a lot of really smart decisions, and it's a lot of small details that I don't think you would initially pick up on. But when you do pick up on them, it like opens this whole other viewpoint of the show, which I think is really really cool. And I'm really excited to see where they're going to take this show and where they're going to take this story, because just picking up these little things that they've been dropping over the last few episodes has been really interesting and really fun to see how it evolves. So yeah, I'm just really excited to see where this show goes and hope that they are able to really pull off what they're trying to do with this show. So now let's move on to the upper half of the middle. All right, so in the number 9 spot we have Drifters. In the number 8 spot we have Bungo Stray Dogs Season 2. In the 7th spot we have Babuki Baranki Season 2. And in 6th place we have Nambaka. So probably the most noticeable drop this week is going to be Drifters from the number 6 spot last week to 9 this week. It's nothing was really bad with this week's episode. I just feel like this episode was a little bit slow and it kind of dragged the plot, because last episode we had a real strong episode, introduced some more characters, introduced the real antagonist for us, and I feel like this episode we didn't really do a whole lot moving the plot forward. Yeah, there was some jokes and there was a little bit of plot like development, but I don't think it was really substantial or enough for the episode. So I'm sure that this show will climb back up the rankings once the next week's episodes roll in and we start getting more into the action of the show. But just this week, I felt the episode was just a little weaker than some of the other shows had this week. So that's why it dropped to number 9. In the number 8, Bungo Stray Dogs, it was okay. We kind of reached the end of the flashback sequence, so I felt like the ending of that sequence was a little lackluster. It didn't really hit me as hard as I thought it would. I mean, it gave us some nice backstory on design stuff, and I'm glad that we had it. I just feel like it just dragged on a little bit too long, and it didn't really knock my socks off essentially. But it wasn't a bad episode. Again, just other shows just had stronger showings this week. It is heading back into the main story, so I'm excited that we're going to be jumping back into the main story that they left us off in season 1, and I'm hoping that this show starts picking up and kind of starts doing the same thing that they did last season. So in the 7th spot we have Babuki Baranki Season 2. I feel like this week's episode was a really, really strong one. We had a lot of great action. We had some really good plot points too that are really going to start, I think, moving the main plot of this show into motion. So yeah, just great action scenes, great character revelations and development almost. So I think this episode was very, very strong, and I'm excited to see where they take the show. And I'm really just excited from this show after this week's episode because it was very, very strong. And then in the sixth spot, we have Nambaka. It dropped one spot from spot 5 to spot 6 this week. It's still doing what it's doing. Good, strong comedy show. Really gets you with those jokes. Some of them I felt weren't as funny this week. Not to say that it wasn't funny at all, because it still was very funny. It had a lot of great comedic moments. Our first cliffhanger of the season, so I'm guessing this is like the first time there's been a plot that has spanned over one episode, which is kind of interesting, and I think they did it well, but I just felt that some other shows just did what they're doing a little bit better than Nambaka, as you'll see as we go into the top 5. But it's still a great show. I'm still gonna keep watching it. I still think it's one of my top shows of the season. It may pull itself back up here in the next coming weeks, but just for right now, I felt like there were some shows that were shining just a little bit brighter than Nambaka, so that's why I felt I had to drop it down one position on the rankings. So now let's get into the top 5. So coming in at the number 5 spot is Kaijo. Again, I'm sure you people are surprised that Kaijo's actually broken into my top 5 after what I've been saying about it for the past few weeks, but I don't know, man. It just keeps hitting all those great points. I mean, it hits all those Battle Shonen points. We got the special abilities now. We had some really nice fight scenes. I don't know. I think it's I don't know what it is exactly. I can't put my finger on it that makes me enjoy this show so much, but I just feel like the Battle Shonen elements are just so strong. I'm really looking forward to uh, more fights between the girls and seeing what kind of special abilities everyone does have, because it's kind of getting into that realm where everyone kind of has their one special ability that sets them apart from the rest of the class, or at least the main characters have special abilities at least, which is usually how it goes. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this show goes and get some more fights and see some more special abilities of the students in the school. So in the number 4 spot, we have Magical Girl Raising Project. I'm liking this show. I still think it's a very strong show. It did drop a spot this week, but I just feel like while this episode was strong, it was more of a setup for the coming episodes. I feel like they laid down a lot of groundwork in this episode, introduced some new characters, introduced some new ideas or thoughts just to get them in your head for now and kind of try to shift your perspective, I think, a little bit, so that in the coming weeks when we have like these more heavy hitting episodes, I feel like it will have a bigger impact. So I still think this episode this week was good. I just felt like it was more of a groundwork laying episode for the next couple weeks than having this be like the big bombastic episode for the show so far. So excited to see where it's going to go in the future. I think it will climb back up to its number 3 spot, but I think it's good at number 4 for this week. In the number 3 spot, we have March Comes In Like a Lion. Loving this show. It's such a strong slice of life show, and just the emotions it's able to convey are so strong and so good. All the cast is likable. There was one character, his rival, that I wasn't so sure of in the beginning, but he's really grown on me and I'm really liking him. So really, it's just strong all around. Strong slice of life elements, strong characters. It's just a great show, and I'd highly recommend you watch it if you haven't already. So we finally have a clear distinction of number 2 and number 1 this week. So in number 2, we're going to have Ajin Season 2. It's in the number 2 spot this week. It was still very good. It just nothing could compete with our number 1 show this week. But I mean, Ajin Season 2 still had a very strong episode. We still got a lot done. I'm still loving the show. We're starting to see some real character development in our characters, which I'm enjoying greatly. But unfortunately, its episode just wasn't quite strong enough to get it back to the entitled with that number 1 spot, because the number 1 show is Sound Euphonium Season 2. This episode this week was just so fantastic and so strong. We kind of reached the climax of a plot point that's kind of been building so far this season, and it was wonderful. It's just like the show is just so gorgeous in every aspect, and the animation and the voice acting, just in the characters' reactions, it was so good. And this episode really knocked it out of the park for me, and it might be at this point right now my favorite episode of the whole season, just because of all the emotion that was packed into it. Just made it such a wonderful, wonderful episode. And so that is why Sound Euphonium was able to clinch the number one spot by itself this week. I'm not sure if it's going to last because it had a spectacular, powerful episode this week, so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to keep it up. I would doubt it because for it to be at this level would be really spectacular, but I think they need to spend some time building up more different plot points and character interactions. But we'll see if it holds on to the number one spot by itself. But overall, this week I thought was pretty good overall with most shows. I thought most of them had pretty good episodes. So if you're interested in any more little bit in-depth discussion, I have first impression videos up for most of these shows. Any that haven't been up will be coming up soon. So if you want to check that out, feel free to check the link in the bottom there to link you to the playlist. If you agree or disagree with any shows I had in my list, feel free to leave me a comment in the section down below. And if you want to be up to date for all of my new videos and be notified when they're released, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.